I'm excited for this one. Oh, yes. So, this wasn't a private message that was sent in. This is a message that was put on one of the Facebook posts. And I ended up deciding to do a YouTube video for it simply because ADHD, autism, everything like that fascinates me. Brains fascinate me. And sometimes if I could shake people and just say, just learn about yourself. You're amazing. You're fantastic. You just got to know how to use it. I really would have been just going around rattling people. So the message basically said, can you do one on executive function where you literally can't get anything done in the house? ADHD, no organization, procrastination, task paralysis, wanting to do stuff but can't, tidying, washing, cleaning, decorating. God, there's a lot, aren't there? Overwhelmed with tasks and end up doing none of it. So yeah, yes, I can. Let's have a real conversation about ADHD, executive function, and why some people just feel like they're drowning. And either watch it all, or you can tell by the slides what is about what. Feel free to skip through. Feel free to send it to somebody who's struggling with their ADHD, whatever. But it's going to be a long one, not massively long. Don't get scared. You'll want to know some of this information. So yeah, a lot of people with ADHD, we've spent years being called lazy and dramatic. We're too emotional. You're just too much. We're disorganized and unmotivated. Or the worst one, that's saying just need to try harder. Great, thanks. Never thought of that. So we end up procrastinating. We end up stuck in this paralysis. And to others, it looks like, and you end up feeling it internally yourself, like you're failing somehow. Well, you're not. You just work differently. There's actually a massive amount that comes down to how the brain is wired and how certain brain systems communicate. And once you understand that, things start to make so much more sense. Because, I mean, look at this. Look at the difference in the prefrontal cortex here for ADHD and a neurotypical brain. There's big differences. So keep that in mind to start. We're going to go further into it. So straight away, we'll explain what executive function is. It's basically the brain's management system, okay? It's heavily linked to the prefrontal cortex, and that's the front part of your brain, like right behind your forehead. So it helps with things like planning and organising, starting tasks, managing your emotions, because even though you feel your emotions down here, sometimes they still affect up here. They're still coming up here. So switching attention, time management, remembering things, your prioritization, and then actually following through with things. So now imagine trying to do all that while running a house, raising kids, working, I don't know, replying to messages, making videos, sorting appointments, remembering school forms. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm not the best with that one. And trying not to forget that I've done it myself this morning, I've re-washed a wash. Remembering that you did have washing in there. So you're dealing with this constant mental noise in your head. And that's what a lot of people with ADHD say, don't they? And to be honest, just listening to all I just said, it kind of makes your head explode a little bit there, doesn't it? Just on its own. And that's why in ADHD, and when the prefrontal cortex is underactive and it's overwhelmed and it's tired or it's struggling with dopamine regulation, then people can experience things like procrastination. You get that emotional overwhelming. You start forgetting things more. Your impulsivity hits. Watch that bank balance on your online shopping. So you get all this, but it's important to know that's not the only thing going on in your brain. There's a lot more to it than that. And this is how we can start to understand and start to try and help ourselves. So let's first talk about dopamine. Now, a lot of people say dopamine, but you'd never hear many talking about the noradrenaline. Get that one out, Samantha. And what it actually is and where does it come in. So both these, not just dopamine, like we hear a lot about, but both these chemicals are heavily linked to motivation, focus, everything that you hear about dopamine as well, attention, alertness, the reward and the emotional regulation. But they both need to work together. This is where it gets tricky and we don't have the full understanding sometimes. So dopamine pathways, they help with specifically motivation and reward and passion and interest and like starting tasks. But noradrenaline, that pathway helps with the focus for it, the attention, the alertness, that stress regulation, and emotional control. So, research shows how ADHD brains regulate these systems differently. And that's why ADHD can feel so confusing sometimes, because it's not just that people with ADHD can't do things, it's when the brain begins to struggle with regulation. When, how, what am I giving me attention to? So you start getting bored with tasks. You start like looking at things thinking there's no stimulation in that, I'm not bothered. There's no emotional meaning to anything. There's just no interest. Okay, there's no interest. The brain really can struggle to activate properly for them. And that's why some ADHD people can stare at dishes for 2 hours, but then suddenly spend 6 hours researching some random hobby that they're probably never going to do. They'll start it at midnight, like their life depends on it. Come next night, it's gone. It's gone. The brain responds much stronger to both the dopamine and adrenaline together, and that way it can work with interest, it can work with novelty, it can work with urgency, it can work with challenges and emotional meanings. And that, when them two are together and working for you, that's when and why hyperfocus happens. Okay, so some ADHD people, as you know, 49 hobbies on the go, 19 are unfinished, and you've got enough, random supplies of absolutely everything in your house that you probably could survive an apocalypse. But when they find that thing, this is what is so important to understand. When they finally find that thing that they genuinely care about, wow, they can do something, the hyper focus, the determination, the creativity, the out of the box thinking, the passion, the get up and go. It's incredible. It's incredible. And once you start to feel that for yourself, your pathways will want to start taking you that way more and more. And it's just learning about where these things come up, noticing the triggers, noticing your emotions to get them to working together. So this is where understanding yourself becomes so important, because ADHD brains, they're not lacking ability, nowhere near. They're just struggling with regulation and communication between these systems. And when we don't understand ourselves, we can end up working constantly against our own brain. We start trying to push through thinking that, I'm supposed to be doing what these other people are doing, so I'm just going to push through and burn myself out. You start ignoring the overwhelming parts of you, and you're forcing your nervous system into overload, or you're chasing like stimulation without even realizing it. But like I was saying, once people start learning their triggers and their cues, their energy patterns, I always know when a crash is coming, and I just say, I've got to do a SMAP for day. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Um, but when you start learning about things, and when are you getting overwhelmed, what are the signs, what does regulate you, what makes you feel good, like I can drift off into nature, and what drains you, what genuinely are you interested in, what sparks your brain, what's your interests, then those systems can start working together much more efficiently. And that's when ADHD people really shine, I promise you. Because once that passion, once that regulation, once that understanding, that self-awareness, and you've reflected on yourself and it all starts lining up together, then you will be creative, you will hyper focus, you won't procrastinate, you will be determined, you won't be in that paralysis, you'll be able to do loads of problem solving, you'll have the energy for it all. And it is, honestly, it's incredibly so powerful, especially when you feel it and start proving it to yourself and you're like, wow, look at me. And I think another thing people need to hear is a massive part of coping is acceptance. ADHD people tend to think to themselves, I'm broken, I'm useless, why am I not like these other people? No, stop it. You're magnificent. You're fantastic. You bring something else at table that somebody else can. You need to start thinking this is my brain. So how do I work with it instead of against it? Because constantly fighting yourself creates shame. Shame creates stress. Stress makes executive functioning worse. So you're going round in circles. So instead of asking, why can't I just do things normally? Start asking yourself, what support does my brain actually need right now? And that shift can change absolutely everything. And if you're listening to this and thinking, because I've been there before, and you're thinking, but I'm trying to do that. I use reminders, I make lists, I'm trying my hardest, but I'm still struggling. Firstly, that doesn't mean that you're failing at it, and it doesn't mean again that you're lazy or anything, because ADHD management isn't just using a planner and drinking water. A lot of people with ADHD are trying to survive while also doing all the other stuff in everyday life, and that matters because of all the stress on the brain. And like I said, round in circles. And when we stay overwhelmed for long periods, the emotional centers of the brain, they become more reactive. So while the part responsible for planning and organisation and a regular emotional regulation becomes less efficient, sometimes people can be doing all the right things, but the nervous system is overloaded with everyday life, regardless of your ADHD. So sometimes, not going to lie, the answer isn't always just keep trying these things. Sometimes it's just stop, rest. And this is where we get into the days I love. Reduce the pressure, break down your tasks, regulate first before trying all these other things. Let's just rest your nervous system. Let's get grounded. Okay. So let's think about it. If your phone is on 2%, what do? Are you screaming at it for not what are you doing? Are you holding your phone? Are you like, work harder, get some energy back? No, you plug it in to charge it, don't you? Well, your brain's the same. Needs to recover. It needs to charge. Lie down. Pretend you're plugging it in. And that is one of the biggest strategies for ADHD. Like I say, learn your cues, learn when you're at 2%, learn when you're overstimulated, learn when your brain's about to shut down, learn when you need movement and when you don't, learn when you need quiet and you don't, learn when your hyperfocus is kicking in so that you can use that to your advantage and be like, yeah, well, I'm not bothered that I forgot the last 5 days to fold all the washing. My hyperfocus is kicked in, and you're going to fold that washing in 10 minutes that would have took, if you'd have pushed yourself through it, probably an hour. So wait for your hyperfocus, learn when to use it. When your system's overloaded, and you need to know when it is that your brain needs recovery instead of that pressure, because like I say, once you understand those patterns, you can stop fighting yourself so much, you can stop feeling guilty. I call mine, like I was saying, mine's called a Samantha day. So this is a day when I can feel that my brain's getting frustrated and foggy. I'm starting to get irritated at tiny little things. I can feel emotions on their way. And I know that I've got to do a Samantha day before they become too intense and feelings and come out in ways that we don't like and we struggle with, and then it tires our body, and then we're around in that circle again. So my Samantha day, honestly, and I can't do this when I'm in hyperfocus. Again, you need to work with your body. Mine will never come at a time when this is like when I'm crashing that these things come. I couldn't choose to do this when I'm hyper and things like that, and I've got loads of energy. That's when I'm going to use that for stuff like helping people like yourselves and make this video. No, I'm using these things to my advantage. So my day, I shut all the curtains. I sit in the dark all day. I put soft lights on the ceiling. Mine's a little round thing in it. Different colours go up on the ceiling. I love the blues, reds, and purples. Play rain sounds on my phone. I love that. Nature sounds, thunder and rain, play them on my phone. And honestly, I just lie there. I put the hot heated thing on my back, because sometimes it's my body that's making me crash and I'm in a lot of pain. So I have my heated blanket under me. There's no noise, there's no demands on me. Sometimes I get, because I love water, one of my sensory things is water, and I get in the bath, I put my laptop on the top of the toilet and watch a film while I'm in bath. It's just the nice sensation feeling of water. Sometimes I do potter around doing little bits around the house while I'm watching the TV, but I'm comfy. There's no pressure. There's nothing on me. Sometimes that regulation, or like the bath and the lights, that sensory regulation is more than anything else. So, and don't get me wrong, I hope nobody sat there thinking, well, that's lazy, because it's not. It is not lazy. It's my system, and whatever your thing would be, it would be your system recovering. So, for somebody else, unlike my Samantha day, it might be going to the gym. My husband loves going to the gym 7 days a week, and it's where he works everything out, and he comes out there feeling fabulous. It could be a swim, it could be a hike, it could be a walk, it could be cycling. Gaming, I'm a big COD player. That also helps me actually. So that's just reminded me thinking of that. Music, as I said in another video earlier, music is very important to some people and they can really drift off into it. Arts and crafts. Or do you know what? A good old nana nap. I actually do that as well on some of my Samantha days. A good old nana nap. Catch up. What else? I mean, you can all think of loads of things. It's what you can sink into, what releases all them feelings, what makes you feel at ease and a weight lifted. Is it gardening? A lot of people like doing it through gardening. I also like film days as well. Some people just like complete silence, just being there for a few hours without, having all these demands. So it's literally whatever regulates your nervous system. And some people will think, I don't have time for that. But honestly, you don't have time not to. Because listen to this. When you constantly you push through the burnout, everything becomes less efficient anyway. You take longer doing tasks and you forget more. So actually, it's quicker than pushing through for days and getting nowhere to just do this for a day, half a day, a couple of hours, whatever fits into your life. If you're pushing yourself, it's going to take you longer because you're more emotional and more stressed. So reset and you'll get it done quicker anyway. So I'm just saying, not every strategy works for every person. And this is why I do sessions as well. So in one-to-one sessions, we would break this down. What are your interests? What are your hobbies? What is your life like? What have you got time for? What's your routine? And we'll work it out together and I'll support you and get you there. So not every strategy works for every person, and that's why I tried to give a couple of examples. Some ADHD people thrive with structure, others feel trapped by, routines. Some need movement, some don't. Some need quiet, some don't. Some need body doubling, some don't, Some need medication, some need therapy, some need wellbeing support. Some might need all of the above. And you know what? At different points in life, if you need all of the above, so what? That's fine. That is why people like me do more in-depth one-to-one sessions to help you work out all these things, specifically tailored to you, so that going into the future you can tweak these little things at whatever point you need in life, or for whatever event is happening, or what strong feeling has come on, etc. So I will make it clear, because I hate it when, like I said the same before, just try hard or just be not. I hate them sayings, hating it. Managing ADHD it's not about becoming normal. It's about becoming aware of your patterns, your triggers, your energy levels, your overwhelming cues, your strengths as well, and your limitations. We've all got to have some self-awareness and reflect on the things that we do and go back and try again, or change it and tweak it. And see what, environments we function best in and things. So we all need to do that anyway. And I promise, once you stop constantly fighting your brain, you will finally start supporting it properly and you will feel better. And like I've said, don't ever let anybody say that you're lazy or that you're stupid or that you're failing at life, because you're not. Your brain's just processing differently. And that doesn't mean it's doing it badly either, because I'm telling you, I've met a lot of people with ADHD and their creativity, their humour, they are funny. Their empathy is massive, massive. Their innovation, their energy. You want to see them when they get going with their energy. The passion for things, like my passion for ADHD. And there's deep emotional understanding with them. And honestly, your resilience to the world, sit back and think now exactly how far you've got, because your resilience is second to none. So you don't need to become somebody else. You just need to understand yourself and to build a life that actually works for you and your brain, and understanding like dopamine and noradrenaline and how it works and how you can get it to work for you in your favor. And that doesn't mean there's never any bad days. There is for everybody, and you're all typical or not. Everybody has a bad day. You're always going to have them. It's how you deal with it and how you understand yourself that matters. So I mean, visuals, and this is why I always do slides and things in the background for videos like this, because I believe that visuals are fantastic, and the practical ways for you to see instead of listening to all the waffle. Some people might just like to look through the pictures of these and be like, oh yeah. But it's like when I do these types of activities for kids sessions sort of things, because lots of kids with ADHD have spent years in the early years, and they're listening to, will you sit still? Will you just concentrate? Why are you being lazy? Come on, try harder. What about, come on, do what these lot are doing, without anybody actually showing them what's happening in the brain. And kids especially love visuals, and that's why I know adults do too. Yeah. So, like with kids, once they've seen it, they understand it, they relate to it. You can literally see in a kid's face, like the relief on the faces. It's dead cute. With an adult, it's the exact same thing. They need the visuals. They need to see, especially with ADHD, you need to see them quick, sharp things. But with children, they're a lot more acceptable to the to the information that you're giving them, because their neuroplasticity is better. They've not spent up until the 20s, 30s listening to the same thing about laziness, and that's why it's so good for them to learn it young. But like I say, that's why I like doing visuals. So, for instance, with kids, I'd do things like, like if it was in person, which you can imagine these as well, these visuals, and you could do them at home. Because even though I'm saying I do this with kids, that's because my one-to-ones with adults are online. So generally in person, for visuals, it's a lot for kids. So for instance, with them, I'd do like an obstacle course while giving them instructions halfway through. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's to show them, working memory and attention shifting, so that they can understand it and see it in real time. So you could do time sorting games, and that will show, how you can get overwhelmed, prioritizing, and distraction. And what we do, I basically say to them, when you start feeling that, because I don't want them to feel it a lot, when you start feeling that, I want you to stop, because then they also say everybody goes at different times. You're not all standing and sitting at once. We've all got different levels. So yeah, we do things like that. You could do like the brain traffic jam activities that are called, where loads of noises, instructions, and interruptions all keep happening at once. And again, I do it purposely so that they can feel the cognitive, so they can start to realize and start to recognize when they're getting that brain overload, when there's too much in there. And then that's learning about, you sit down now, we're not going to carry it on. But so they can recognize when that's happening. And then for things like that, we've got emotional cards, and like color systems, so that the kids can point out and recognize and get for themselves, and look at their cues before meltdowns and shutdowns happen and things like that. There's reward-based focus games, so that's purposely to show them, like how dopamine and noradrenaline works and things. And a lot of them, like I say, the visual, but a lot of them are also the moving around, because that is a big thing for people with ADHD. We generally regulate better through movement and take it in better. So I mean, I've taught kids things before, and honestly, you would think, because they're walking around me, and they're not looking at me. There's no eye contact, and you're praying and hoping that they're taking it in, and worried that they're not, because you're trying to help them. But then you ask them at the end, what did I say? Anybody got any questions? They know everything. And it's because they're regulating better, because they're moving. So when kids realize, same as adults, it's just sometimes it's a bit easier for kids because they're younger, because the brains are like sponges, and because they get to accept themselves from a younger age as they're growing up, and you know what I mean. Um, they start to realize, oh yeah, my brain just works differently. And honestly, I promise you, just because it's easier for kids, it doesn't mean that adults can't do it. You can, and you can literally do some of them things that I've just said at home. You know, turn it into games between you, your family, or you, your kids, or whatever about it. Make it visual, make it hands-on, make it movement, make it get yourself moving, and laugh about it. Enjoy yourself, because sometimes seeing what's happening helps people finally understand themselves, and instead of the constant blaming yourself. Stop it, you're amazing. So if all this has helped so you can start understanding things, I absolutely love that. I love that you're putting yourself first. I love that you're helping yourself. And if you sat there thinking, great, I understand all that now. I understand that I need dopamine and norepinephrine. Norepinephrine? No, you don't need norepinephrine. You need noradrenaline. Not norepinephrine. And you know, you're like, well, I get all that, but how am I supposed to break the rest down on my own? You know, I can't figure out what my triggers are. I've once the triggers happened and I've gone through the situation, I forgot what the trigger is. I can't work it out, because we do have moments like that. Or I don't even know what these feelings are in the first place to break down and recognize them. Then hit me up for a free 20-minute session. We can go through a 20-minute consultation. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can start breaking down. Like say, I tailor it to you. So I will be asking you, what are your normal interests? What, even if it's nothing at the moment, there will be something. You've got ADHD. Something will spark you. So we'll go through that, and I can help you notice the triggers and the cues and everything. And together we can build, and together we can put the coping strategies in place, and then you will be able to go off and do that on your own for future, and you'll be able to tweak it for different events, different emotions. That's the whole point of learning it together and breaking it down. But I hope for those that don't need to go that far into it, that you realise you're amazing, you're fantastic. Everybody has bad days, everybody can be lazy. So there are people that are like, you're lazy, you need to try harder. Well, do you know what? At some points in life, so are you. So I was like, leave me alone. I just need to figure out what connections are what for me in my brain, because I spent ages being told that they're supposed to work a certain way, and actually they don't. I can't help that. They don't work that way. They work on their own automatically a different way, because I've got ADHD. So you know what you need: adrenaline, dopamine. You need to regulate, you need to ground yourself, you need to have times that are just for you, you need to learn what your cues are and things. Honestly, once you start doing it, you'll be taking over the world. Honestly, I have always said, if we were in biking time still, I'm telling you, everybody, alt leaders would be autistic, ADHD and everything, because you know they'd run the world. Run the world. So, like I said, I am passionate about things like this. So I think I better stop there, really, hadn't I? Was there another slide here that's not showing? Yeah, there you go. Right at the end. Charge your battery, your brain, and just accept who you are. You're amazing. What's that song? By Pink. You're amazing just the way you are. I would have sang it then with my ADHD, but that's a bit much for YouTube for me, so we won't. But accept yourself, love yourself. You are amazing. You just need to know how these brain connections work so that you can use them to your advantage. You need to work out your cues, your triggers, everything like that. And you can and you will use it to your advantage. It's the same as anybody else in life, and your neurotypical brain. So they've still got to work out how they work as well. They've still got to work out their triggers. The difference is, for many, 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 many years, that's just been classed as normal. Well, do you know what? What is normal? What is normal? Normal is what makes you happy. That's normal to you. Charge your battery, accept who you are, work with it. Oof, love ADHD.